Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Treason, right? Treason. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, treason. Right. I've got to be very careful with my. I've got to be very careful here with this headline and what I'm talking about, because there's a headline out today and I need to re-edit that actually. STARMER to use ECHR to investigate British troops. Now, I'm going to be talking about that, and then I'm going to be talking about the realities of war, because we are in a very wild situation. And this is one of the reasons why I say that Europe, NATO, without the United States, cannot defeat the Russians, okay? Because we are going to be sending our troops to go and fight the Russians, but giving them a rule book and saying, if you break anything in that rule book, you're going to be sent to prison. So what do you think what do you think is going to happen on the front line? I'll tell you what's going to happen. Absolutely nothing. So this comes as there's an article out basically this morning, and there's a report in, I think it's the Telegraph, or it might not be, I think it's the Telegraph, or the Guardian. So the headline, STARMER to use ECHR to investigate British troops, comes from is the Telegraph, comes from the Telegraph this morning, which has sparked controversy over Keir Starmer's past legal work and his current role as head of government and commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Ladies and gentlemen, listen, if you're on right now, just think about this. We have a prime minister, and this is the core allegation, who, well, the report reveals that as a human rights barrister in 2008, Keir Starmer contributed a chapter to a book titled The Iraq War and International Law, edited by a gentleman called Phil Shiner, a solicitor later disgraced and struck off for fraud. Shiner was convicted in 2019 and received a suspended sentence in 2024 for fabricating evidence and pursuing bogus claims against British soldiers in Iraq, part of what became known as the Iraq war crimes or witch hunt investigations. So just put that in, just think about that for a second, guys, okay? Keir Starmer wrote an article. He was in league with this guy, Phil Shiner. And Phil Shiner was prosecuted. It was found, beyond reasonable doubt that this guy, this legal firm, made up bogus accounts and dragged British soldiers through the mud, through the dirt for years for bogus accounts. He never saw one. He never saw one day in jail. Nothing. Millions, well, I'm going to assume millions of pounds worth of taxpayers' money went into investigating these bogus crimes. And Keir Starmer, in his chapter, argued that the European Convention on Human Rights, ECHR, incorporated via the Human Rights Act in 1998, offered a more effective framework than traditional international humanitarian law like the Geneva Convention for holding states accountable in conflict zones. He criticised what he saw as efforts by the UK and US governments to interpret the laws in ways that granted troops effective immunity. Listen, I've been there right at the front end. I've been there right at the front end when these bombs and bullets are firing down. And I'm going to tell you what the realities of war are like. And you can't. It's not one of those things that that solicitors and barristers and legal teams can judge. You can't judge it. Now, just totally unrelated, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to read you guys the definition of treason. So, treason is the crime of betraying one's country, typically by trying to overthrow the government, aiding its enemies, or harming the state, involving a breach of alliance to the nation, historically defined by acts like England's Treason Act in 1351. Now, if you guys may or may not know that when Tony Blair got in power, big friend of Keir Starmer's, powerful Fabian, when Tony Blair got in charge in 1997, sorry, or 1996, I can't remember. One of the first things they did is remove capital punishment for treason. It includes actions like levying war, spying, conspiring against your sovereign country, with modern laws evolving but retaining the core concept, the modern concepts of severe disloyalty. Key aspects of treason: betrayal of allegiance. Fundamental element is violating the duty and loyalty one owed to one's own state or sovereign. Overt acts. It's generally required concrete actions, not just thoughts, like aiding enemies, attempting revolutions, or espionage. I just thought I'd throw that out there, ladies and gentlemen. That has obviously, that is just for entertainment purposes, and that has no relevance to what we're going to talk about today. Right, let me get on some chat, and then I'll continue. So, good morning, everybody. Right, I'm only streaming on YouTube because I want to have my coffee. Honestly, I'm going to put TikTok on in a minute. But I just want to have my coffee. I'm sick of sitting here, right? Sitting here, looking at my coffee, not allowed to drink it, and thinking, oh, God, it's going colder. It's getting colder. It's getting colder. So I do love my coffee. I do. I love my coffee. Right. I'm going to jump up. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Big Rob. Big Rob. Good morning. Is that big? Yeah, Big Rob. NZ. Good morning, Big Rob. Good morning, everyone. Timsky is saying I did about 15 rounds of baton gun in the late 80s. I always wonder if they're coming for me. It's so wrong. It is. It's absolutely ridiculous. Soldiers shouldn't look. If you look, can you imagine the scenario? Look, there's so much information I want to get out right now, and I don't want to just spatter it out willy-nilly. Can you imagine, right, that we are in a country right now that looks like we're heading for a conflict with the Russians, right? That seems to be on the cards, okay? Looks like we're heading for a conflict with the Russians. Okay, fine. We are also in a country where Supreme Leader Starmer, Keir Starmer, he's not the Supreme Leader. That's only in dictatorships. He's the Prime Minister. Sorry, I do digress. Where Keir Starmer has been actively trying to pursue our own soldiers through through the legal system. Now, I've been there, right? And I've been to, I've seen a lot more combat than most. And can you imagine, right? You're going out on the ground maybe 2-3 times a week, and you're taking incoming fire each one of those times. Each time you're taking incoming fire. You're losing friends, your friends are getting hit, not always, sometimes they're not, sometimes they're just getting winged or clipped, or somebody might take some shrapnel in the ass. I've seen that more than you think. And you're going out there on the ground, you're pushing, you're driving, you're taking and braking, you're pushing the enemy on the back foot. And then you've got lawyers behind you saying, look at this. Go and win at all costs. But make sure you document everything, because I'm going to take you to the courts afterwards. Some people are really spineless, and it's just, how I say, you've got to look at people's, you've got to understand how people grew up, right? Elon Musk, yesterday or today, I think Elon Musk's following me as well. You guys can remember, like a couple of years ago when I first started these channels, one of the first things I did is I shared with you guys Keir Starmer's links to the Soviet workers' camp in Czechoslovakia in 1986. 2 years ago, I shared that. 2 years ago, I did a video. 2 years ago, I shared with you guys from that the direct links to Keir Starmer from that to Jeffrey Epstein. The strong links, right? Turns out other people are noticing this now. So what I'm saying, when I say these wild things, it's not because I don't, I'm just making random shit up. It's because that's what I'm seeing, as wild as it sounds. Debbie Doobs is saying, who's going to join up if you can't do your job? War isn't nice. It's dirty. That's how you win. It is. Listen, and, a fair fight is bad tactics. All with the rules of engagement, but who knows yet? So Timsky's covering himself there. So what are, okay, so as I understand it, they are retrospectively applying laws that didn't apply then back then, if that makes sense. So with this Northern Ireland bill, the Northern Ireland bill, what I think they're doing, and I might be, look, this sounds so wild. This sounds so wild and unbelievable. I can't even believe I'm saying it, right? So with this Northern Ireland bill, and I'll come on to Iraq in a second. With this Northern Ireland bill, what I believe they're doing is we didn't join the ECHR, I think, until 1998. Now, some of the incidents that happened in the Troubles were pre-1998. So what I think the government are saying now is, right, okay, we wasn't in the ECHR in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and up to 97, I guess. But what we're going to do is we're going to reapply the laws that weren't applicable then. We're going to reapply them to things. It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. It's like having a law now. Like imagine a law now. Imagine changing the law now, right, and saying it's illegal to smoke, right? This is what it's like. Imagine saying it's illegal. You know, the government just come out now and they say, right, we're going to have a new law and it's illegal to smoke. No more smoking, right? And then going back through videos and footage and finding everybody who's ever smoked and finding them. That's what it's like. It's ridiculous. Good morning, everyone. Right, there's quite a few comments. Right, Danny, the governments take people through the courts to try and get money to make up for what they're losing by going to wars. They make that, so it's the legal companies. You know, it's the legal companies that do, you know, it's the legal companies that get legal aid for prosecuting our soldiers. And it's absolutely disgusting. Can you imagine let me change this headline, guys. Hang on. This is doing my head in. This is doing my OCD. I need to get that off. Right. I need to do that one. Yeah. Can you imagine anywhere in the world where you send your soldiers to a war and then prosecute them for going to that war? If anyone should be prosecuted, it should be the politicians who send them. You know, it should be the politicians who send them, because the two scenarios, right? If you send your soldiers and bad things happen, then one of two things has happened. One, they're either not ready to go, in by which way you shouldn't have sent them, right? Because health and safety, you know, the people at the top are in charge. Two, they're not trained. Their training isn't up to scratch. And if their training is not up to scratch, it's your fault as a prime minister, because you've not instructed that training to be sufficient. So both scenarios, the politician should get charged, not the soldiers. Max is saying, do more on prepping for civil war. Listen, you know, yesterday when I did the live stream, I just saw it all. You know, I absolutely saw it all. I was quite down yesterday on this, because I genuinely see all this coming and hitting on the streets, and the government will have absolutely zero ideas how to deal with it. Unfortunately, when I'm doing these videos and people say, oh, Sean, you're defeatist. I'm not being defeatist. I'm telling you what's coming. I'm not sugarcoating things. You know, I'm not trying to stand here and say, come on, we can do this. Because the reality is we're too far gone. We literally have terrorists now, convicted terrorists, standing for election in the United Kingdom. And I'm going to say they're probably going to get in, you know. So then what? Literally, like a while ago, and again, it's so wild. Right, let me give you the scenario. First of all, we have no legal framework to oppose a tyrannical government, right? So let me give you a wild scenario. Let me give you something that is so wild, it's unbelievable. So this would clearly never happen, right? Let's just say, and I know, look, let's just say this. I know this is totally wild. This is totally for entertainment purposes, and this has no correlation to anything that's happening in the United Kingdom, all right? Let's just pretend, all right, for 1 second, that we have an elected official. Let's just say a mayor, right? Let's just say a mayor, a police commissioner of a big city, has turned a blind eye to certain crimes happening to young girls, right? Let's just totally randomly say that, right? And let's just say everybody knew about it. Everybody knew about it. But he got voted in. He kept getting voted in. And then he just said, yeah, fuck it. Yeah, I'm not good. I'm in this town, in this city. My police force will not investigate that crime. All right. Then what do you, like, what do we do? Like, what do you do? Literally, what would you do? There's nothing you can do. Nothing. There isn't. Yes, you can try voting. All right, we've tried voting, but, you know, he keeps getting in because there are more bad people in that city who enjoy doing that crime. Okay, right. So that crime is now essentially legal in that city. All right. Okay, fair enough. Then what? Then what are you going to do? Oh, we're gonna peacefully protest. Okay, right. Good luck. Right, you can peacefully protest, but go and do it in that field 20 miles away. Right, okay, yeah, okay. We're going to write to our local MPs. Yeah, good luck, good luck. I mean, what, you're going to write to the person you've just voted for to ask them to change their mind about the thing that they said they're not going to change their mind about? Now we actually have the real world scenario in the United Kingdom where we have convicted terrorists standing for election. That's how bad it is, guys. That is how bad it is. Right. Let me get TikTok on. Let me get TikTok on in a second. Let me finish my coffee first. But Max, I had a text message last night from one of my friends. One of my friends who lives in like the next village across. His water's gone all funny. And he texted me last night and he showed me he's like got all the bottles of water I told him. So if I was to tell you guys 30 seconds how to prepare for a civil war, I'd say get yourselves plenty of water. And I would always say that, get plenty of water. Right, let me finish this coffee and then I'll get TikTok on. Feeling strong, feeling strong. And you know what? Another thing I would say, how to get ready for a civil war, is get your fitness up. Literally, everybody can be fitter. Everybody can be fitter. Hang on, there's some messages on the group chat. Oh, for those of you guys who were watching yesterday, my friend who's in Venezuela, he texted me back. He wasn't on that plane that went down. Oh, hang on. Sorry, guys. Give me a second. Right, I'm just going to put TikTok on because I think, listen, I think those guys on TikTok, I think they deserve a little bit, don't they? They deserve a little bit. They do. They deserve a little bit. Let me get this on. What should I call this live? I'll just call it treason. We don't usually do it this way, do we? And also, one of the things I'm going to do later on today, I'm going to go to there's a shop I found in Sheffield, and they will sell. There's a shop in Sheffield, and they sell silver coins. So I think I'm going to go there today and just have a look and see like if I should buy some silver coins. Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are on. Are we on TikTok? Yeah. I don't know if we're on TikTok, but we are talking about the news of the day. First of all, I've just given you guys the definition of treason. And basically, the definition of treason is a crime of betraying one's country. Now, I'm just throwing that out there totally randomly, okay? And just for you guys on TikTok, all right? For you guys on TikTok, I'm just saying right now, Treason is the crime of betraying one's country. All right, I'm going to leave it there, underline that. That has got absolutely nothing to do with what I'm going to say next, of course, because that may get me in the gulag. So there's a headline out today, ladies and gentlemen, from the Telegraph, and the headline is STARMER to use ECHR to investigate British troops. And this comes from a front page story in the Telegraph today, which has sparked fresh controversy over Prime Minister Keir Starmer's past legal work and his current role as head of government and commander-in-chief of the UK's armed forces. And listen, ladies and gentlemen, I have my ear very close to the ground when it comes to the military. And I know that the military may not trust Keir Starmer as much as you think. So the core allegations in this is the report reveals that as a human rights barrister, in 2008, Keir Starmer contributed a chapter to a book titled The Iraq War and International Law. I bet that sounds interesting, right? I bet it's all loads of copies by Phil Shiner. A solicitor later disgraced and struck off for fraud. Yeah, guess what he did? He was convicted in 2019 for fabricating evidence and pursuing bogus claims against British soldiers in Iraq. I remember this when it came all out, guys. Okay, I remember this. It was a massive witch hunt. They were basically finding people in Iraq and just making up statements and then investigating those statements. It meant nothing. They were just cashing in. They were absolutely cashing in. However, he was a good friend of Keir Starmer's, and Keir Starmer, remember Keir Starmer, 1986, Czechoslovakia, Epstein, Lord Ali. Look, guys, this information's out there for you all to find. It's literally 3 clicks on Wikipedia. You don't know how bad it is. And if you do, you're not nearly angry enough. In this chapter, Keir Starmer argued that the European Convention on Human Rights incorporated into UK law in 1998, remember, just quickly on the Troubles Bill, this act was incorporated into UK law in 1998, and they are trying to retrospectively apply that law. Kaz is on TikTok, he's saying, when it comes to our military, Starmer is a traitor and a coward. Listen, I've seen Starmer on the punch bag. He's a ferocious beast. Isn't like Starmer on the punch bag? Isn't he ferocious? Just quickly before I get onto the Iraq thing, the European Convention on Human Rights was incorporated into UK law in 1998. Now, as I understand it, and I'm still not 100% on this, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but what they're trying to do, the government they are trying to retrospectively apply the ECHR to the soldiers who served in Northern Ireland before this law came into UK legislation. For example, in layman's terms, right? This is like, imagine if the government now made it illegal to drive a car, for example, whatever, something ridiculous. Imagine if today, 2026, what we on? January, what we on, 28th? I don't know. I don't even know what date it is. Whatever date today is, January 20, it might even be February. January 2026, the government come out and they say, right, driving a car is now illegal. Right, okay, driving a car is now illegal, right? Everybody stops driving the cars. But then the government go through the DVLA and they go, look, we're retrospectively applying this law. Sean, Back in 2025, you was driving a car. I'm like, yeah, no, it wasn't illegal to drive a car in 2025. But we're retrospectively applying this law. That's what it's like. I don't even know how these things get in time of day, honestly. Anyway, so this was incorporated into 1998, offered a more, this is what Keir Starmer said. This is what Keir Starmer is arguing, how British troops should be investigated. He's saying, Starmer is arguing that the European Convention on Human Rights, honestly, I need to mind my P's and Q's. So I think Keir Starmer's a fantastic leader, and the way he walks, and the way Keir Starmer walks when he gets off an aeroplane, especially in China, he's just oozing. He's just oozing leader, control, masculinity. You know when he walked off the plane like that? He was just oozing masculinity and control. Could you imagine David Cameron walking off the plane like that? Listen, you know what? You know, if I got off that plane, right? And and I walked down there, they'd be the soldiers, and they would be shaking with intimidation. You know what? Both men and women would both be shaking, but for entirely different reasons. So Keir Starmer argued that the European Convention, we'll get there in the end, the European Convention on Human Rights, incorporated into law via the Human Rights Act of 1998, offered a more effective framework than traditional international humanitarian law, like the Geneva Convention, for holding British troops accountable in conflict zones. He criticised what he saw as efforts by the UK and the US governments to interpret laws in ways that granted troops effective immunity during operations in Iraq. The piece is presented as an academic legal analysis, not personal, he's not personally advocating for prosecutions, but critics frame it as an endorsement of the use of the ECHR mechanism to probe British forces. It's crackers, guys. We are in a situation right now in the world where we may be sending our British troops to a war zone. That's the reality, right? We may be sending our British soldiers to Ukraine. Do we trust Keir Starmer? Do we trust Keir Starmer at the helm? I mean, there's only one person I would trust, really. Like, if I'm and I love Nigel Farage. I do. I think he's great. I've met him. I've got absolutely nothing bad to say about Nigel. There's only one person I would trust. It's Rupert Lowe. Absolutely, 100%. The only one person I would trust is Rupert Lowe. I would trust him to helm the ship. I would. Now, this ties into Keir Starmer's previous free legal work on landmark cases in the mid-2000s, including the Alsenki and others versus the Secretary of State for Defence House of Lords case letter appealed to the European Court of Human Rights in 2011. Starmer, alongside now Attorney General Lord Hermer and Shiner. So here you've got this connection, right? So for those of you guys who missed it earlier, you've got this connection now between Shiner, who was the disgraced, he's the struck off solicitor, basically. And look, I've been in these organizations, right? I've been in these organizations where my moral compass is too high for this anyway. I resigned. Look, I resigned from Reform because literally 2 weeks before the election, because I was looking at what was happening. I was saying, listen, thank you very much, but I don't like what I'm seeing, and my moral compass is saying no. So I've seen these organizations, when the shit hits the fan, they try and find a fall guy, right? And I'm not saying Shiner was the fall guy at all. What I'm saying is Shiner was convicted in 2019 for fabricating evidence against British troops. That's what he was convicted from. There's no denying that now. The gavel went down. He never saw a day in prison. I don't know how much money he took off the taxpayers, but whatever, right? Whatever. Listen, right now, I don't even, we're just throwing money away left, right, and center. So now you've got this connection between Keir Starmer for prosecuting troops, trying to prosecute British troops back in the mid-2000s. You've got this connection with Starmer alongside the now Attorney General Lord Hermer. We all know Lord Hermer, right? We all know some of the cases he sat on We do. And he's a strong Fabian, ladies and gentlemen. Lord Hermes is a strong Fabian. So we've got this connection now between those people and China. Shinner, maybe it's Shinner. And they all represented the human rights interveners arguing that the ECHR applied outside Europe to British troops who were in Iraq. Eventually, the ECHR ruling extended human rights obligations to UK forces abroad, leading to the Ministry of Defence to reopen inquiries into things that happened years afterwards, which was often called a witch hunt by veterans into hundreds of soldiers over alleged war crimes. Many collapsed because the evidence was fabricated. But they still keep moving on, okay? Now, I'm just going to read you that definition of treason again, guys, okay? I'm just going to read you the definition of treason, and this has got no relevance to what I'm saying. I just thought you guys might want to know what the definition of treason is. Treason is the crime of betraying one's country. Just thought I'd throw it out there. Right, I'm going to jump onto the chat, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I am. I may revisit that. Right, good morning, everybody. Craig Mawson is saying, Sean, the nickname should be for him Lord Harmer. Yeah, Lord Harmer. Gone Commando is saying approved foods. I don't know what that means. Approved foods. Civil Defense is saying gold, silver, war. What's that? I'm going later into Sheffield, guys, and I think I might buy some silver coins today. I'll take you guys with me. I don't know how much they're going to be. I don't know what the deal is going to be. But look, this is not financial advice. Okay, this is absolutely not financial advice. Zero. This is not financial advice. Those of you guys who've been following me for a while, right, you know that what I've said about silver. Silver for me is a better commodity. Silver for me is a better storage storage. If you've got any excess money, is a better storage than gold. Why? You can't really do much with gold. I know what you're going to say, right? But like, think about it, right? You can buy little silver coins, and what is it like gold, like silver? It's maybe like 50 quid an ounce or something. I don't know what silver is. I know it's gone up. It's gone up and it's gone down. But silver as a trading token, right? Just imagine the shit hits the fan right now, ladies and gentlemen, and everything's gone down. Imagine that everything's gone down. Are you really going to try and go and buy a bag of potatoes with your gold sovereign? How much is that? Oh, it's $2,000. Yeah, I'm just going to take that off you. That's what's going to happen. You go up there with your silver coin. It's worth like $50 or sorry. Go on. 50 quid or something. You can get goods, values, or services for a similar amount, and everybody understands that. So I think silver, if you're gonna buy precious metals, get the physicality of it. Get the physicality of it and go with silver. Venner has said, anyone had a letter attached check that claims a part of a legal case won by Trump against Amazon? I think that might be a fake one. Venner Carver, I think that might be a fake one, potentially originating from Nigeria or something. I don't know. Wow. Oh, wow. An ounce of silver's 85 quid? Yeah, and Debbie Doobs is saying you can't eat silver. No, you can't eat silver. So, you can't eat silver, but you can trade with it. So, if you look, guys, I know what people are thinking, right? And you are right to think it, because the whole house of cards is about to fall. What I've got it's up on the screenshot. So, I was telling you guys 2 years ago about Keir Starmer's connections. 2 years ago, I was saying that United boots on the ground, March 2026. All this stuff that's coming, and you can see it now falling into place. Things are going to collapse in the UK. They are. There's no way around it now. And I get it. Everybody look, what did I say? What did I say? About the guys, Danny Tomo and the Raise the Flags guys, Raise the Colours guys going over to France. What did I say? Like December. I said, right, they're going to get arrested and banned from the country, and then it's over. What happened? They got arrested and banned from the country, and now it's over. I tell people the solutions, right? I do. I tell people the solutions. I tell people what's coming, but nobody listens, which is fine, you know, which is absolutely fine. I'm just dealing with something in Ukraine right now. And I proposed the government of Ukraine a solution to their drone warfare problems 2 years ago. 2 years ago, right? I proposed a solution. They're now asking for that solution 2 years later. But now the warfare's moved and that solution is no longer applicable. So either everybody does what I say right now, or we're gonna slide, you know, or we're gonna slide into anarchy. Are people gonna do what I say? Absolutely not, because everybody wants their own opinion. Remember, I've worked at government level. I've done this at government level, right? I've been there in those halls of power. When you get people, right, what's going to happen? Right, okay, there's event X planned and that's going to happen. Right, okay, tell me what the weather's like. Tell me what day it's on, and give me 10 minutes and I'll tell you what's going to happen. Probably don't need 10 minutes, 30 seconds. I will literally tell people what happens. Nobody wants to know. Nobody wants to know because I give them the solution too quick. I tell people what's happening too quick. What they want to do, they want to go and then, oh, no. Raven, oh no, we don't believe you. So what we're going to do is we're going to give this to a general. We're going to ask a serving general. He's then going to go on a fact-finding mission for 6 months. He's then going to come back and give us the information, and it's going to be the exact same information that you gave me in 30 seconds, only 6 months later. So now the information that he's giving me is obsolete. I'm done. I'm done with them. I'm absolutely done. I'm here telling you guys what's coming. So anyway, sorry, David, I went on a bit of a rant there. I went on a bit of a rant, and I think everybody deserves to go on a little bit of a rant. I can't pronounce that word. He's saying you can make cutlery out of silver. Also, during the war, they coated food with silver as a preservative. No way. Did they really? I don't believe that. You can eat silver. My mates call me a conspiracy theory. Not so funny now. Do you know what's not going to be funny? Do you know what's not going to be funny when... do you know what's not going to be funny? You know when the Syrian gangs or the Kurdish gangs or the Iraqi gangs or the Pakistani gangs or the Bangladeshi gangs or the Somalian gangs take over your town or your city and you're too scared to go in there? That's not going to be funny. You have to pay a tax. Jillian with a fantastic thumbnail. What an angelic thumbnail, Jillian. What an angelic thumbnail. He's saying, I've always said Rupert Lowe. Do you know what? I'm going to do a video just on Rupert Lowe later. This afternoon, I'm going to do a video just on Rupert Lowe. I am, because like, he's, you know, look, and I don't know him, but like every time I see him, I just think yes. You know, you can... What happens in politics, and this is why I tapped out. What happens in politics is you join a party, and then that party, you have a whip and you have somebody in charge. Now, regardless how incompetent that person is, that, you know, you have to do what they say. And if they're vastly incompetent and you challenge them, they will try to close you down. If you say, mate, 2 + 2 is 4, and he's going, actually, it's 6, and you say, mate, you're deluded. That's not going to happen because 2 + 2 is 4. He's like, yeah, heresy, heretic, get him out. And I think that's what happened with Rupert Lowe. I know it's certainly what happened with me with reform. Sean, have you seen West Antarctica exploration on BBC this morning, drilling boreholes? I have not, Vanna Carver Red. Vanna Carver Red, is that your name, Vanna Carver Red? I don't know what that stands for. But no, I've not seen that. Right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you're on, the time is ticking. The time is ticking, ladies and gentlemen. Keir Starmer wanted to use the ECHR to investigate British troops. That's the reality, okay? That is the reality. That's on the headlines this morning from the Telegraph. Now, I would question Keir Starmer's loyalty to this country. I would question Keir Starmer's loyalty to the British military. I would question Keir Starmer's loyalty to humanity, actually, and that's just me. So the realities of war, I'm going to tell you guys what the realities of war is. We've all seen Black Hawk Down. I mean, Black Hawk Down is pretty, I mean, okay, you know what? Forget that, because Black Hawk Down is really realistic. That's like, who did that? Was it Ridley Scott? Was it? I don't know. But like, if you want to know what like what modern warfare is like, Black Hawk Down is like the closest I've seen as a movie. Anyway, so we've all seen movies, right? You know, and I think this is one of the things that is detrimental. These solicitors and these barristers, because they've never been anywhere, they've never done anything, and all they've ever seen. I mean, can you imagine if you're a man? You know, can you imagine if you're like a man and you've never had to face conflict? If you're a man and you've never had to face, you know, a physicality, if you've never had to face a physical challenge, and all you've ever done is look at books and words, and ultimately those men who are like Keir Starmer, for example, he's chasing British soldiers through the streets, but what he doesn't realize is the books and the legislation and all those little bits of paper, they are backed up ultimately by violence. And he's chasing the same men who are upholding his little books. It's fascinating when you think about it existentially. Anyway, so the realities of war. Can you imagine, right? And I'm just trying to paint a picture now. Right? Imagine being awake. So imagine being awake for, okay, first of all, imagine being away from your family for like four months, right? Or 5.5 months or whatever. And you're on this particular mission and you've been awake for 2 days, literally, like you have been literally awake for 2 days. You might get like 5 minutes sat in a chair doing that with your helmet and your whatever optics you've got. So you've been awake for 2 days, right? You're chasing a bad guy, right? You're chasing a bad guy. You get green on, so you get go, or whatever the code word is, right? And everybody runs to the helicopters, right? So you're running out to the helicopter. You are up, you're knackered, you're tired, you're hungry because nobody really eats when you've got all your kit on. It's just a nightmare. There's a whole load of shit that's going on in your mind. You run onto the back of a helicopter and it's nighttime, it's pitch black, so you're on night vision goggles. Your helicopter lands, and I'm just totally making this up. Your helicopter lands, you run off the back. A couple of your guys just drop straight onto the floor, right? You know, a couple of the guys who run off the back of the helicopter, they drop straight to the floor. And let me give you a thing. They're not sleeping, all right? But they're not moving, all right? So now you've shouted, man down, man down, man down. You've got medics trying to deal with those casualties. There's rounds flying all over. The medics are trying to think, right, do we deal with the casualties here, or do we drag them, or do we leave them? What's going to happen? You look over in the distance, and the other helicopter that was landing, that's taking incoming rounds. So there's bad guys shooting up at that helicopter now as that helicopter's coming down. So that helicopter goes, he just fucks off. So they leave you on the ground now. You've got half the troops, right? You've got half the troops. You've got 2 casualties off the bat, and you're trying to make a decision. Do you continue with the mission or do you extract? You decide to continue with the mission because, you know, British forces, we're going to take that mission. We're going to take those guys to the candy shop. Half the forces, bothered. So you start, your commanders start reevaluating. They start shouting QBOs on the ground, quick battle orders. The teams are all fucked up because people are in the wrong place. There's dust everywhere. You can't see anywhere. There's lasers cutting through the smoke, cutting through the dust. Somebody else has gone down. You hear man down again. Are you seriously saying that the ECHR applies to those soldiers on the ground right now who are fighting for their lives? Are you really saying that that's the case? Is that what Keir Starmer's saying? Is that where we're going, guys? Is that where we're going as a country? Because I tell you what will happen. I will tell you now what will happen. If we don't put this to bed, and I don't think we will, we are going to send our troops to war. And they're just going to say, yeah, we can't actually fight that battle because it would be against their human rights. Yeah, we can't actually fight because it's against their human rights. We've got to keep the ECHR, we've got to do ECHR. So we can't, so thank you very much. I'm sorry, we can't fight. No, it would be against their human rights. Why? Well, they've not had their 8 hours sleep. What? They're the enemy. Yeah, but they still need to have their 8 hours sleep as per ECHR laws or whatever. That's where we're going. That is where we're going. And I don't see an off-ramp. I really don't see an off-ramp, ladies and gentlemen. I do not. Daniel Payne is saying, sorry, guys, just joined the chat. Hello, Daniel Payne, and hello, Lissu. Listen, you guys on TikTok, I did start you guys a little bit late, just because I wanted to have my coffee. I normally start you guys at the same time, but or just a little bit before, actually. But I wanted to have my coffee because I sit here, right, in the mornings when I'm giving my coffee, when I'm doing my morning live stream, and I see my coffee start as a hot coffee, right? And by the time I turn you guys off, it's like a lukewarm coffee, which I don't mind. I don't mind a lukewarm coffee. Oh, right. Okay. It's all gone wrong. It's saying silver is worth more than gold. Silver is higher on the periodic table. It's in health war, etc., etc. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know that much about precious metals, ladies and gentlemen. I wish I knew more. I wish I knew more about precious metals than I do about global conflicts. Leanne 1W is saying, Farage gives me the creeps. I think Starmer is a traitor. There's no politician today I feel confident would take us into an incoming war. Listen, whatever people feel, I think that Rupert Lowe is our best bet. I do. I mean, I saw a statistic, right? I saw a statistic that Rupert Lowe on his own controls 9% of the votes in the United Kingdom. And Rupert Lowe doesn't even have a political party. Like, Rupert Lowe doesn't have a political party, but I saw statistics saying that he controls 9% of the vote. So if he had the Rupert Lowe party with just him and no policies, he would get 9% of the vote. And I think that's lowballing. TNT 555 TNT. What's that? 10 tits. I don't know what that is. Saying I have zero trust in mainstream parties, very little in reform. Keir Starmer proved his treason when he tweeted about that immigrant who's is a threat to native people on the British Islands. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is, if you can give context. Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. If you're joining for the first time, we are talking, well, actually, if you're joining for the first time, all right, if you're joining for the first time, I just want to give you the definition of treason, right? Treason is a crime of betraying one's country. Now, I just thought I'd throw that out there. I think what I'm going to do is every day I'm going to do a random word. And today's random word is treason. And the definition of treason is the act of betraying one's country. No reason I'm putting it out there. Absolutely no reason I'm putting it out there. Also, so that's, draw a line under that, ladies and gentlemen. That's got nothing to do with what I'm going to say next. But there's a headline today. Starmer uses ECHR to investigate British troops, which comes straight from a front page story in the Telegraph. It does. It's in the Telegraph. I'm not going to share it because it's a paywall. I have not paid. I have actually paid, but it's on my phone and I'm on a different email. So I just can't share it. Well, I can, but you'd have the paywall. Do you know what? I'm going to do? I'm going to share it. It's got a paywall. It doesn't matter, does it? It's not the end of the world if you guys are seeing. Oh, that's not it. Where's that gone? Where's that gone? Hang on. Ah, there we are. So, oh, I can't. Right. Right, I'm not going to share it, but basically there's a headline in the Telegraph today. Starmer use the East. This is, just so everybody knows, this is January the 28th, and this was published at 9:50. I've got my clock set wrong. So it was published today. I don't know what time it was. I don't know what time it's set on. This is a headline today, published in the Telegraph. Starmer to use ECHR to investigate British troops. Keir Starmer's suitability to be in charge of UK military called into question as it's revealed he wrote a chapter in a book by the disgraced lawyer. Now, this particular disgraced lawyer was charged, the gavel came down, with making up fake allegations about British troops. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, the word of the day is treason. And treason is the crime of betraying one's country. Now, I'm just throwing that out there. Guys. That's got nothing to do with Keir Starmer. Just so everybody knows, all right? Nothing to do with Keir Starmer. And this report reveals that as a barrister in 2008, Keir Starmer, I can hear something like a duck or something. We have pheasants that come in the garden. We might have pheasants doing wild, mad noises in the garden. That's really doing my head in now. I think there's some pheasants outside. Anyway, the report reveals that as a human rights barrister in 2008, Starmer contributed a chapter to a book titled The Iraq War and International Law, edited by Phil Shiner. A solicitor later disgraced and struck off for fraud. It turns out Shiner was convicted in 2019 of fabricating evidence against British soldiers in Iraq. And he got a lot of money, him and his legal firm, they got a lot of money to prosecute British troops through bogus evidence. He never spent a day in jail. He just got struck off. Now, also, if you guys want to look further into this, Keir Starmer, alongside the now Attorney General Lord Hermer and Shiner, altogether represented human rights interveners, arguing that the ECHR applied to British troops in Iraq. So it turns out they're all bros. They're all bros. And my experience of this is in these organizations, when the shizzly hits the dizzly and there's a shitstorm, right? They have to find a fall guy. Okay, that's my experience. And very often they will just choose the lowest rank. They will just choose the lowest rank, and they'll say, right, you have, I can remember when I was in the army. Can I say this? I'm going to say it. But I'm going to leave key things out, right? When I was in the army, this happened all the time. So I think it was like the summer ball or something, just before summer leave, and it was wild on camp. There was like all sorts of crazy stuff happening. You can imagine like 600 guys, just absolute, it's carnage on camp, right? It's just wild, and it's just crazy. And something particular bad happened to what in one of the blocks, and we had to find someone. Nobody would own up to it, so we had to find. Well, it's not that nobody would own up to it. It was multiple people that were doing it, and we had to find somebody, to put their hand up to go and get some punishment, because somebody has to get punished, right? So I can remember somebody putting their hand up saying, and like I don't know, the sergeant major came and he said, "Right, I want a name. Right, I don't care who it is. I want a name." So somebody offered up a name, and he says, "No, I want another name." So we had to go about 3 or 4 names before we found somebody who we could offer up as the offering. But that's what happens in these organizations, right? The shizzle hits the dizzle, and they have to give a name. So I'm not saying that Shiner was the name, because obviously, he's been found guilty. What I'm saying is, there's no smoke without fire, and the apple doesn't fall from the tree. And when you've got all these guys operating together, Starmer, Hermer, Shiner, doesn't look good to me. But that's the reality. So Daniel Payne is saying, "God, I see TVs chucked out the window. God, the army was nuts. Great memories." Yeah, look, guys, if anybody's ever been on an army camp, when things go crackers, and they do, it just goes wild. It goes wild. And the best thing to do is just get away. Unless you're involved in it, unless you're going crazy, just get away. So why now? This story broke amid heightened scrutiny of Starmer's government, military readiness warnings, foreign policy, e.g. the United States, Iran, China, Ukraine, domestic issues. We've got domestic issues in the United Kingdom. Right-leaning outlets like the Telegraph, Daily Mail, Express, GB News have all amplified its evidence of activist law. Defining STARMER, questioning his command and credibility at a time when the UK is urged to prepare for war. This is lawfare against our British troops, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think it should be happening. In short, this is a classic culture. We're in a culture war, right? We've got the left versus right, human rights lawyers versus military traditionalists. And I, for one, am a military traditionalist. I am. I'm for law and order. I'm for a strong police force. I'm for strong laws. I'm for people to respect those laws. But you know what? Those laws have to apply equally to everyone. And I'm fine with that. I'm honestly like, if you want to bring in strict laws, I'm fine with that as long as they apply equally to everyone. Because that's what I think people, that's what I think is really annoying people. The perception that laws do not apply equally. For STARMER's supporters, I don't know if he has many, STARMER's past shows a principled commitment to accountability. Well, it's going to be very interesting if he's going to hold himself to that accountability. For critics, it raises doubts on, excuse me. For critics, it raises doubts about whether someone who pursued the ECHR application in a war zone is best placed to lead the armed forces today. Can you imagine it? Honestly, can you imagine it? Right. Go to Ukraine and fight the Russians. Right. Okay. But those vehicles, don't take anybody's vehicles. If your vehicle breaks down and there's a load of vehicles lying around, don't take them because that would be theft and that's against the ECHR. Okay. Right, lads, as vehicles have gone down, we need to get out of here quick. What are we going to do? There's a huge bus there with the engine running. Yeah, but again, that's against the ECHR because that'd be stealing. Yeah, but it's nobody's. There's nobody here. The whole town's getting kaboomed. 120mm mortars are coming in. There's drones everywhere. Yeah, but we can't get on that bus because that'd be theft. Oh my God, let's run. So this row is likely to run, especially with veterans like myself and other prominent voices, continuing this conversation. I think this is a continuation to be had, ladies and gentlemen. I really do. Do we feel that Keir Starmer is in the right position to be a wartime prime minister? Do we think that? I do not. And that's nothing against his, that's certainly nothing against his character. That's just, I've seen him on a punch bag and I don't think he's, I don't think he's ready to be a wartime prime minister. Oh, I've done that one. Right. I'm just going to jump down, guys, and I'm going to jump on the chat now. Gun Commando is saying, I'm getting my metal detector out, but all I find is boomstick shells mainly. I don't know what that means. Is that some sort of code? Maybe it's code. I don't know. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you're on right now, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification. If you guys on TikTok, hit those buttons up there. Do you know why you all need to hit these buttons and share my stuff? Look back through my videos. I don't talk about, well, I am talking about what's happening now. I tell you guys what is coming in the future. I don't even need to give you guys examples because there are plenty. I'm not talking about what's happening now normally. We're talking about things that are coming in the future. We're talking about the absolute chaos that's going to be on our streets. And every one of these rubber dinghies that gets on our that gets to the shore, every one of these look, we have convicted terrorists now standing for election. I'm not making that up. That's fact. That is didactic truth. That is didactic truth, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. We have convicted terrorists standing for election in the United Kingdom. We have a prime minister who has been an advocate for applying extra laws to try and prosecute British troops overseas. Absolutely bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. And then this same guy looks like we're getting into what are we on, 3 or 4? It looks like, yeah, we're getting into WW3. It's like you couldn't make this stuff up. If you were to, like, when you watch the movie, It's got not Will Smith, although there is one with Will Smith. What's that movie with the zombie film with Will Smith? It's not End of Days. I don't know what it is. But there's it doesn't matter. That's not the one I was thinking of. It's Brad Pitt. What's that movie with Brad Pitt? Zombie film. World War Z. I don't know why they didn't make a sequel of World War Z, because I thought that was awesome. So, you know, the beginning of what a fantastic film World War Z is. So, you know, right at the beginning of World War Z, when right at the beginning of World War Z, where you're seeing the newsreels of what's happening. You're seeing the newsreels of this happens. That's where we are right now. You know, in 50 years, when people, well, maybe 100 years, when people make movies or VR about what's happening now, and you go like, oh, mum, I'm going to put the VR on and pretend I'm fighting in the Civil War in the UK, in the British Civil War. That's what's coming. Oh, what side are you going to choose? Oh, I'm going to go on the hard level and I'm going to play as the Brits. Oh, don't play as the Brits. Oh, they never win. Oh, yeah, but if you win on the Brits, you're the better player. Choose the Somalians. They get everything. You know, they've got all the when you play with the Somalians, you get all the resources. But yeah, that's what it's going to be like. That is where we are right now, ladies and gentlemen. And when people make movies about this, they are going to be documenting all this crazy shizzle that is happening right now. Hang on, I've just got a WhatsApp message to you. Give me a second. So I'm just getting this through now. Navy tracks suspicious Russian ship with hours over undersea cables. A cargo ship. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, what did I say? Honestly, I'm sick of it. I'm literally sick of it. Nobody listens to me. I've sent so many letters to the MOD telling them the future of warfare. They don't listen. The future of naval, and I'm not a naval guy, the future of naval warfare is asymmetric naval warfare. There will be attacks from civilian cargo ships, and there's nothing you're going to do about it. We are going to see at some point, for entertainment purposes, of course, we are going to see attacks coming from civilian cargo ships to military ships. What are you going to do? Like Keir Starmer, your best naval, your admiral, Admiral Raven, what are you going to do? Right, okay. I mean, I just decimate everything. So how would you deal with that, ladies and gentlemen? Now, look, guys, I know I'm going off on a side quest. I'm going to come back on track in a second. I just want to throw it out there. How are you going to deal with this, right? Can you imagine? Emma Watts is saying, we listen, Albin. Emma Watts, I'm frustrated. Not with you guys. I'm frustrated with all the work I've done for the military, all the white papers I've sent into the military, telling them exactly what's coming. The thing that's really melted my noggin is I told the Ukrainians in 2022 what they needed to do for their air defenses. I said, look, this is what you need to do. I gave them the solution. It was a cheap solution. They didn't want that. They wanted Patriot missiles. They wanted all this sort of stuff. And I said, look, it's not feasible. It's not sustainable. They didn't want it. They don't want my solution. And guess what? They now want my solution, but the battlefield's changed. So when I talk about naval warfare, I've just had a message through. There's a Russian ship being tracked, and it's been over our undersea cables for like a couple of hours. Now, the future of naval warfare is asymmetric. Imagine this. Just put yourself in that situation, right? Let me see the last there. James, just pretend. Haven't UK got more admirals than ships? Yeah, maybe. I think they have. Right, so James, I want everybody to put yourself in this situation now, right? You are the admiral of a British strike carrier group. You're there. You're on the bridge of like the huge aircraft carrier. You've got all your F-35s or whatever. You've got your binoculars. I always think you've probably got a beard. And if you girls are picturing yourself, just picture yourself with like a stick-on beard or something. I feel a captain needs to have a beard, right? You're there. You're looking out with your binoculars. All of a sudden, you get like the alarm going off. Mayday, mayday, mayday. Or I don't know what they do. Incoming attack, incoming. You know, I think that's what it is, actually. I think it goes incoming, 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 incoming. You know, everybody's rushing to battle stations. And then all of a sudden, you go, boom, 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 boom. One of your ships sinks. But there's no military craft around. There's no military ships around. But you know what there is? There's a load of cargo ships. So you look on the radar. And you backtrack, and you see where these you can tell on the radar because of the speed of them. 100 drones launched from a civilian cargo ship. What do you do? Literally, what do you do? Now, you've got 3 options, right? You've got 3 options. These are your 3 options, right? 1, you do nothing. You do nothing. That's your first option. 2, you sink that ship. Well done with that. You're sinking a cargo ship, maybe even an oil tanker. Yeah, good luck with that. You've just caused an environmental disaster. Good luck. Okay, so you send out your, you send out the Marines. You send out the Marines to take control of that ship. All right, when the Marines land, all that drone stuff, all those catapults and stuff, they just throw it over the side. No, it's not us. So what do you do with that? You've just lost the ship. Nobody's there. What do you do? What do you do? All your millions, all your billions you spent on naval warfare, laughing at the Russians. Laughing at the Russians. It's bonkers, guys. Right, listen. David King is saying are Marines diverse? They're not very good. They're not very. Right, I'm going to turn you guys off on TikTok. I will continue this live stream over on YouTube because I'm going to say some negative things in a minute. I'm going to say some very, very negative things. All right. Do you know what? They're not going to be that negative, actually, but I might get myself banned on TikTok. So if you guys on TikTok want to jump over to YouTube, I'm still going to be streaming on YouTube for a bit. I'm the Real Raven 1 on YouTube. And if not, I will, I bid you good morning. I'll see you guys later. Cinder the Izzard is joining. Cinder the Izzard is joining. Daniel Payne saying boo. Sorry, Daniel Payne. I just don't want to get myself restricted and banned. So let me turn you guys off on TikTok. Off. I think we're off. Okay, so when we talk about Royal Marines, all right, I'm going to give you I'm getting my first running. Well, this is not my first running with the Royal Marines, but this is like my first. This is what I'm going to say is my first running with the Royal Marines. So my first running with the Royal Marines was at I can't remember where it was actually, Brecon somewhere. Anyway, so you get like, when you go to Brecon and you do these military exercises, you're all in little positions. And depending on the exercise, you might get a barn or you might get like, you might not get a barn. You might just get a wood line. But anyway, the Marines were in this location. And I can't remember why I had to go to the Marines. I had to go over to the Marines because I think they took too much 50 cal ammunition and I needed to go and get. I can't remember what it was. It might have been stuff. I don't know. I don't know why I was there, but me and my mate Fish were there. We walked over and we went. They were in like the nicest barn and it had electricity and and when I got in there, they were asking for washing machines. They were trying to get washing machines and they're saying, "Where's the washing machines?" And I was like, "What?" He's like, "We've got no washing machines." I'm like, "Yeah, you're on exercise." He's like, "How do we wash our clothes?" I was like, "What? You don't. You 2 weeks. You've got what you carry. You're here for 2 weeks. How do we wash our clothes?" I'm like, "You just don't, mate. That's just how you roll." That was the first thing. I went outside and they were drinking this drink and it was hot cordial. And they call it hot limers because it's a hot drink and a cold drink, and it's something anyway. So I managed to find out that the ammunition, they'd handed it over to A company. Yeah, it was A company. So I had to go to A company, right? So I went over. So that's my experience of the Royal Marines, right? On exercise, they were all up in arms about where their washing machines were, because they wanted to have nice clean clothes, which is fine, nice clean clothes. Everybody likes clean clothes. I went over to A company, right? Carnage as normal. The guys were on a fence, all right, and they were having there's an electric fence, all right. And one of my friends was he was holding a competition, and the competition was an electric fence biting competition, and he had a stopwatch, and whoever could hold the electric fence in their teeth for longest won. And their section got like an extra bottle of water or something. So when you want to think about war fighting soldiers, there are war fighting soldiers, and then there are war fighting soldiers. Of those two, which ones are you going to want to send into war? The Marines, who are fastidious about washing machines, or the paras, who are just having an electric fence biting competition? I don't think that was again. That may have been. Anyway, right. Anyway, armored washing machines. I don't know. I thought you said free base. I don't know what that means. Sean, if you know any veterans that need any help getting compensation their injuries, there's another YouTube that knows offering free help with claims. Everybody I know, well, I don't have any. I know the people who do deal with that, and everybody I speak to deals with that at the high end. Free-based justice benefits are the rich and unfairly right. I don't know. I think I'm missing out on here. I think I've got to jump up. And Audrey Roch, there's no need for any wars. They make too much money from wars. The civilians don't make money from wars. They send their kids. Yeah, I can't deny that. The UK and France own the channel, so can legally shut it down. Well, whether France can shut it down, I've told you guys, the problems in France, right? The problems in France are the French don't want those migrants in France. So if they want to go over the water, the French are totally fine with that. But what I mean is the part of the British channel, that's where we need to deal with. Cheryl saying, Sean, when do you think it's going to kick off? It's kicking off now, Cheryl. It's kicking off now. You've started to see these... we've started seeing these go on. The curry wars in Manchester. We had the Pakistanis and the Indians fighting in, it's already started. Right, listen, guys, I'm going to close this down now. I don't know what time is it. I want to go and have a look at these silver coins. I may go and look at these silver coins. I may not. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you're joining for the first time, I'm about to close this down now, all right? So I've just the word of the day is treason, right? And treason is the crime of betraying one's own country. Just a word, that is just a random word of the day, ladies and gentlemen. It's got no significance to today's live stream. The crux of this live stream has been the news out today that Keir Starmer he wrote an article to use the ECHR to investigate British troops. And I've been talking about the realities of war, and you cannot apply these scales, these metrics, these laws, this legislation to people who are in a gunfight. You cannot do that. You can't. It's impossible. It's ridiculous. It's gonna destroy it. Well, if it's not done so already, it will destroy the army. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to close this down. You guys have been fantastic as always. I may be on later in the day to do a video about Rupert Lowe and just like, I think he's like, what he's doing is fantastic. But if not, I'll be back on this evening, actually, at 8 o'clock. And I hope to see you guys there. Are we going off? Are we turning off? No, we're not turning off. Are we? We might not, guys. We might not. We might. Oh, yeah, we're off.